Hello everybody, and welcome to our Friday night crop-in. And I am actually coming to you via recording because I will be traveling this week, and I just was not sure what my location was going to be like as far as being able to set up a video and lighting. And we are making this very fun layout, which is using the punch from the Secret Box, which is a Chevron style punch. And it is our very first that I'm aware of frame style punch that's a knockout style. And I looked through all of the punches that I have to see if we had another one, and I could not find another one. And I've talked to a few other consultants, and I don't think we've ever had one before. So the bottom line of that is it makes it able to make this really fun design, but it's a little bit complex and it's going to require some patience, which is totally fine. We can all do it. If I can do it, you can do it, but it is going to require some patience. And I wanted to make sure you guys would be able to see it very well. So this is what we're making. Before it's on your paper, it looks like this. And I would recommend, before you try it, to use a piece of scratch paper before you use your regular paper. So the very first time I did it, I used a cover sheet. And then the second time that I did it, I actually used cardstock. And I did find that using cardstock was a little bit easier than using the flimsy paper. So you can take that as you want it, but I found using cardstock was just a little bit easier. So that is what I'm going to do tonight, is I'm going to go ahead and use cardstock. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is we are using a frame style punch, and we are going to punch our frame. So to know that you're using a frame style punch, there is a silver line, and that is where you are going to line up your very first punch. Typically, we would start it by lining it up here, but when we're cutting a frame, we want to start with that silver line. So I'm going to put my paper in here, and I am lining it up against that silver line, and then I'm going to punch. And then I just move it over, and I line it up, and I punch. And I'm just going to go all the way across, lining it up and punching it, and hopefully not putting my head in the camera. I'm a stand-up girl when I'm punching. Okay, so it looks like this. Then we rotate it, and again, we're going to line the edge of the paper up against that silver line. And we're just going to keep doing this around all four sides of our frame. And it's interesting on this punch, which you're going to want to know for later, but the very tip of the arrow of the chevron lines up perfectly against that silver line after you punch it the first few times. So I love that. And it really is, if you can do it exact, that will help you when it comes to your design. So if I'm going a little slow, it's because I am trying to be perfect, or as perfect as I can, lining everything up. All right, so now I'm done. This is what your frame should look like. Let me move all of these out of the way. This, for me, it does leave some interesting punch boop that you could use on another page if you wanted, but for my case, I'm just gonna throw it away. Okay, now the next thing that you need to do is that you need to cut out a center frame, and I've already done all the math for you. Basically what we have to do is we've got to make a 2-inch frame around the sides of our piece of paper. So what that means is that I am going to line the edge of my paper up here at 2, And then I'm going to start it on my trimmer, and I'm going to cut from the 10-inch to the 2 inches. That's where I'm cutting. So I start my blade at 10 and I go down to 2. And you want to be as exact as you can. This is important. Try and be as exact as you can. If you go over, it's fine, but try to be exact. And actually, if you go a little under, that might even be better. But you're going to the 10 and the 2 inch. Okay, so I didn't get mine lined up perfectly. That's okay. I'm going to take my scissors now, and I'm just going to cut this little tiny bit to make it a full square so that it comes out. This will be important later, and I've learned this from trial and error. But all right, so now we have a frame that looks like this. Perfect. This is where you're going to want to bring in your 13-inch mat, and you're going to want to line your paper up. And I'm just going to put a little bit of tape runner just on my corner so that my paper stays straight. And then I'm bringing in my straight edge ruler, and you are going to line your straight edge ruler up at 3 inches from the left. So I'm putting it at 3 inches at the left, 3 inches on the bottom. So it's 3 inches. And then I'm going to draw a line starting, really you're starting at the end of the design here. So you're going to draw a line at the 3-inch mark. Then you're going to rotate, and I'm going to do the same exact thing here. Lining it up at the 3-inch mark, drawing a line. This is going to help us to be able to cut our frame in the inside. Again, lining it up at 3 inches and making my cut. And then one more time. Lining it up at 3 inches and making my cut. And I don't think... You can tell, like this one I know is not right because it should be in the center, almost exactly in the center of that white space. So I know that one was off just a little bit. All right, so now we have our lines on our frame. Now you're gonna need a Post-it note, and we're gonna just line our Post-it note right on the edge of that line. We're basically continuing the line down. So now we're going to put our Post-it note here. And the reason we're doing that is now we are going to be using our front line to line it up so that they are in this, they're matching, right? So if you looked on my original, these two are matching. So we're trying to line this up as best we can so that it will be perfect. So we use the Post-it note to extend our paper so that when we put it into our punch, we can line it up so that the Post-it note is right there with my line. Hopefully you can see that. All right. So we're going to put it in there and we're going to punch. And then we're going to rotate it to the right again, and we're going to line it up and punch. And one last time. So you're punching 3 times now on each side. And now we're lined up. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line it up against my line, making sure it's straight. I'm going to put my punch in, line it up with the front black line, punching it and moving it to the side and punching 3 times. So that's 2 and 1 last time. That's 3. Take it out and you'll see if you get it off a little bit, if you're not perfect, I wasn't perfect on that one, it's all right. No one is going to tell. No one's going to notice on your design. But this is where being patient, making sure that you lined everything up absolutely perfectly is going to help you. Making sure you've got your paper pushed all the way to the back. 1, 2, 3. And then 1 last time. Lining it up. One, 2, and 3. All right, so now let me move all this out of the way and let me bring this back in. And now this is what we have. So the last thing that we need to do is we need to get rid of these little edges of our design. So this is where it gets very fun. We are going to fold this on the diagonal. Now in my case, I accidentally cut it a little too far. It's okay. Just make sure when you fold that you're careful that you don't rip your paper and you're lining up your design so that it's going to be perfect on the side with your angle. And this is where patience pays off. You don't want to rush it. You want to make sure your fold is a good fold. You want to make sure you're even. And you're going to come all the way across, down over onto this side, lining it up perfectly. All right. So now you're like this with everything lined up. Now this is the important part. If you messed up and if your line extended and you have a little cut line in your paper, it will be fine because you will just tape it down on your design and no one's going to know the difference. However, this is an intricate punch. So the best way I have found from trial and error not to get your paper stuck in here is if you make sure when you punch that that cut part is facing up and not facing down. If the cut part is facing down, then it tends to get cut or gets caught in the punch, basically. So in my case, I have it cut on this side. This is where it's cut. So I want to make sure this side is facing up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully put my paper back into my punch, lining up my design on the edge. Okay, so let me just take it out again. So my split part that I split a little bit extra is on the top. I'm going to slide it in carefully, and you want to make sure that this is down tight. I'm going to slide it in carefully so that this punch is lining up right here on my frame. So I'm lining it up, pushing it back. Then I'm going to punch, and then I'm going to slide it out very carefully, and it may get caught, but just be patient. So you can see where it was split. But it'll be fine because I'm just going to tape that down on my paper. Then we're going to flip this side and we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to line this punch up and just cut the very tip. So we're going to push it all the way back, line it up, punch the tip, and then take it out very carefully. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing with the other side. Now on my other side, my split's here. So I've got to flip the whole thing over so my little extra split is on the top. That's what keeps it from getting stuck in your punch. We're going to slide it in very carefully and line it up. And then punch. And then very carefully take it back out of your punch. Again, that's where it was split, but it's okay. We'll just put that back down. And now I'm going to flip it this way and put it on this side. Hopefully this is all making sense. All right. So now when I open it, I have my fun design on two of the corners. And again, when I tape it down, I'm just going to align these two pieces and tape it, and you can't even tell. You can't tell in my design that I accidentally went a little too far when I cut out my center. All right, now we need to do the same thing, but we need to do the same thing with these two sides. So we're going to take our paper again very carefully and line it up, making sure we give ourselves a really good crease so that things don't, oh, I didn't line that one up well. You can tell too if you didn't get things exactly perfectly because you'll see where it's offset just a little bit. It's all right. No one's going to notice. Well, some people might notice, but this is where I'm telling you patience pays off. If you're very patient and you're very exact, your design is going to be perfect and amazing. So just make sure that you take your time. You measure everything well. You line everything up perfectly. All right. Make sure I'm lined up. I'm going to give myself a really good crease on the side. All right, so now we have it folded this direction. And our first step, once we've had it folded this direction, is I need to find where I accidentally went too far on mine. I went too far on this side. So this side is up. So I'm starting with this side up right here. I want the split part up. And now, because it's on this side, I've got to line up over here. Well, I lied. It's the same direction. It's split up here, so we're going to line it on this side. And I'm very carefully putting it in. And there's a little tip that sticks out, so I can help use this to make sure that it gets flat against the back. And then I'm pushing it all the way flat up against the back. So if you see, I have my design lined up in the center here. It's pushed all the way back. Punch, and then I'm going to very carefully take it out. And then I'm going to rotate this way, and I'm going to get my tip. Again, pushing it all the way to the back, lining it up, and then get my tip. And now I need to do this side. I'm looking for where my cut piece is. My cut piece is up. I always want my cut piece up. And if you measured perfectly, if you cut your square perfectly without going over, then this is not an issue. But I've made 4 of these and I've yet to cut my square perfectly. So if you're like me and not necessarily a perfect measurement girl, just remember the cut side needs to be up. If the cut side is down, I promise you're going to get it stuck in your punch. Ask me how I know this. So make sure that cut piece is up. And also make sure you have a really good fold. It just helps you slide it in easier. Pushing everything back, making sure it's lined up there in the center, giving it a punch, taking it out very carefully, folding that back over where it belongs, rotating it to get my tip, Again, lining it up, pushing it back, making sure everything's lined and pushing it. And then we have it. Move this out of the way. We open it up and we push out our edges. And then we have our nice frame. And in my case, on my example, I used avocado. And I adhered my frame onto the avocado like this. And when I did adhere my frame, I started on one corner. I just put tape here on the corner. So let me show you. I just had my silicone mat and I just started with the one corner and I did put them on this 2 cut pieces. And I just very carefully put it right along the edge. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. And then I worked my way down a little bit at a time to flatten it. Like that. And then again, I went over to where the edges, and I made sure that they were matted well. And you just do that all the way across. So in my case, I'm going to put silicone all the way across. And then I'm going to run my repositionable because I'm not a perfect girl. So in case I have to move it up, I don't want to use permanent. Plus you can't see. Make sure I get that little part where I had cut it. Like that. Now we have it all done. Now, the next piece is going to be an 8 by 8 inch square that goes in the center. And you're just going to take that and place it right in the center of your square. In my case, on this example, I use this really fun flower jungle print and I put it in the side, and then you're going to cut a 2-inch by 12-inch piece of complementary paper, and that goes right along the edge. So in my case, I can tell that I got a little bit off down here, more so than up here. So I'm going to run my strip along the bottom down here, and it's about 1.5 inches up. But I am going to flip back over to my regular camera and we will step through the remainder of this layout together. But that's how you cut the frame. Again, it's just being as careful as you can to make sure that you have everything lined up perfectly so that you end up in the end with this really cute design. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully that made sense, and I look forward to seeing everybody's interpretations. All right, bye guys.